Good morning and welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live, presented by BetMGM. This is the Week 8 college football betting preview. I'm your host, Stuckey, and joining me, as always, is my Big Bets on Campus podcast co-host, Collin Wilson, and of course, our own college football insider, Mr. Brett McMurphy. We have a lot to get to today. We'll cover 4 marquee games. We'll get to our best bets in just a moment. We'll also close out with an extra best bet. Colin and I will build a 5-team round robin moneyline underdog parlay, which 4 or 5 last week. Hopefully we can get to 5 this week. And then, of course, we'll talk with the universally loved Darren Ravel for a quick market report and get another pick from Darren. He's 0-7. If you believe it or not, well, I'm sure you can believe it. He's 0-7 this year. Hopefully he'll go to 0-8. I do want to remind everyone before we get started to make sure that you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our picks there, as well as an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And also our sponsor, BetMGM, has a great new offer for new users. Only Action users. Use the code ACTION50 when signing up. You will get a free $50 and up to a risk-free bet of $1,000. Again, that's Action 50 is the bonus code when you sign up. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, before we get started here with our best bets, Colin, no suit jacket today. You're back to more casual. Any thoughts there? And then I'll ask you a question. If you were only allowed to watch one game today, what would you choose?
Kansas State, TCU by far. Futures on both of them. We'll get there. No, the suit had to go. I went 2-4 last week. The first time I think I haven't gone at least 500 on this show in maybe a year and a half. And so me trying to get a piece of Brett being hot and his suit and everything, it didn't work for me. So I will not be on this show in a blazer ever again.
Yeah, and you cooled Brett off too. So let's take a look at the updated leaderboard for the season. Hopefully all 3 of us can improve upon those records this week. Let's get right into our best bets. I'm serving first. So I'll start off with South Carolina at home with +3, +3.5. It's been floating there all week. I like anything 3 or above. I actually make them a small favorite here in this game. I think that their numbers and the market perception is still, even after upsetting Kentucky, is still deflated because of their early season injuries on defense. Had up to 8 defensive starters hurt. This is a team that can really run the ball with Marshawn Lloyd, and that's Texas A&M's weakness on defense. Their defensive line, which is young and talented, just hasn't lived up to expectation. Their run defense numbers are horrifying. I think South Carolina, in a great spot here, is going to be able to control the ball, and this Texas A&M offense hasn't impressed me all year. No reason to think that they'll impress me tonight. Their only 2 FBS wins came against Miami, which doesn't look as impressive now, but they got outplayed in that game. And then against Arkansas, again, got outplayed in that game, had a fluke 99-yard fumble return. Arkansas misses a field goal. Sorry for bringing that game up, Colin. But give me South Carolina here. Shane Bieber, their coach, 3-0 against the spread and straight up after a bye. He's won all 3 as an underdog. 4.5, 17, and 12-point underdogs. I think they get it done again. Give me South Carolina. Colin?
Yeah, well, the good news is Arkansas can't lose this weekend because they're on a bye week. The MAC has been great to me on this show. I'm going to stay there for my best bet. I'm going to go Toledo -7. Fitting that the mascot is the Rockets because this is a serious mismatch in explosiveness. The Rockets are top 30 in EPA, both on the ground and through the air. And that is bad news for Buffalo's defense, especially on the ground where they are near dead last in the nation at defending explosive plays. And this all goes back to quarterback DeQuan Finn for Toledo, dual threat, 52-point games over the past 2 weeks. And if you look at Kent State last week, they got up 28-7 on Toledo. A lot of head scratching going on through the second quarter of that game. And then the Rockets went on a 45-3 run to close that game and easily cover. And this is what's going to happen to Buffalo, who's 100th in tackling. They're just full of arm tackles, and their strength of schedules, UMass, Holy Cross, a lot of bad teams on there. So, as for the Buffalo offense, they cannot keep up with the Toledo rush D that's top 25 in success rate, and they're 40th in defending the explosive pass. So Toledo's got advantages all over the field. Give me the explosive Rockets to cover -7.
Yeah, I still don't know what happened in that game last week. I had Kent State catching over a touchdown. You're up 21-0. Should be safe, right? And then all of a sudden, I stopped paying attention, getting all kinds of messages. What is going on with Kent State? Well, nothing good was going on with Kent State. Toledo just did an amazing run. Brett, where are you going?
Yeah, after last week's slate of incredible matchups, top 25 matchups, I am going the complete opposite. I'm going Colorado State, Hawaii, under 46.5. Yes, I know these are the two worst defenses in the Mountain West, but Colorado State is the worst offense in the Mountain West, and Hawaii struggles on the mainland. Look, I want to be the first on our show to use a tennis reference here. I think the score could be love at the end of the first half. Both teams struggle offensively. They're in altitude. It's ugly. Hold your nose. I'm 2-0 lifetime and hold my nose games. Give me under 46.5.
It's good to see you in the dumpster with me, betting some of these horrendous games. I actually have Hawaii in that game, so we'll both be paying attention to one of the worst games on the slate. All right, good stuff there. Let's move on to our first marquee game of the day. We'll kick things right off at noon, and we're going to go to the ACC in a battle of two undefeated teams. Syracuse travels to Clemson. Clemson is a 14-point favorite here. Over under, I think, is still right around 50. I'm going to pass here. I make this number close to where it is. I still don't, excuse me, I still don't know how good Clemson is. I mean, how good Syracuse is. If you look at their schedule, some of their results, you're playing backup quarterbacks. You came back against Purdue, had a bunch of injuries. This is a big step up in class, but I'm not entirely sold on Clemson yet. And plus, I can't figure out Clemson games. I will tell you, I'll be rooting for Syracuse just for chaos in the college football playoff picture. Collin, do you have a bet here?
Yeah, early in the week, I took Clemson -13. One reason you should have the Action app and get in on some of this on Sunday and Monday when the openers come out. But the number has moved too far at 14.5. I think that's approaching where the power rating should be for Clemson and Syracuse. So I'm going to pivot and I'm going to do the over here, because if you've been an avid listener of the BBOC podcast, I call it the DJU podcast. He just has immaculate numbers both on the ground and through the air. Only Dabo Sweeney was able to predict that DJ Uiagalelei would be 17-2 TD to INT ratio, and he has doubled his big-time throwing rate this year. That is amazing. And how do you attack this Clemson defense? Can Syracuse help get some points up on the board so we can get this over? I think they can, because of dual threat quarterback Garrett Schrader. He's going to try to play like fellow dual threats Jordan Travis from Florida State and Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. Both attacked that Clemson secondary and put up over 440 yards of passing. So there is an avenue there for Syracuse to have quality drives and get into scoring position. So I'm going to go over the total here and avoid what I think is a Clemson number that's moved too much at 2 touchdowns or 14.5.
Bonus points for you for going with the last name pronunciation and executing it flawlessly of DJU on a live show. Bonus points there. Brett, where are you going?
I can do it also. Dabo Sweeney. There, how'd that go? Look, Syracuse has been one of the luckiest teams of the season, certainly the luckiest undefeated team. Fortunate to play a lot of teams with injury issues. And there are some statistical models that actually rate Syracuse better than Clemson offensively, and maybe some defensive stats. But you know what? Stats are for losers. Clemson has the nation's longest home winning streak, 37 games. They are going to could be without some key defensive players today. I don't think it's going to matter. I just think they're that much better than Syracuse. I like Clemson even at -14. Give me the Tigers.
Live on the spot trivia, Brett. Last home loss Clemson suffered?
Pitt?
Yep, I think 2014. Well done. Bonus points for you as well. All right, let's move on to our second marquee game of the day. And this one should be an exciting watch. UCLA travels up to Oregon. Oregon 6.5 point favorite here. Over under sitting right around 70.5, 71. I rarely ever go over on a total in the 70s. Historically, it has not been a profitable move. One or two bad things goes wrong, you can't get there. I'm going over here. This game should be played at a fast pace. I think both offenses are going to be aggressive. Both defenses have holes. DTR and Bo Nix are playing so well. I think this is, just a ping pong shootout throughout. I think Oregon eventually pulls it out, but I'm going over and I'm excited. I can't remember the last time I bet an over in the 70s. So I'm excited to be disappointed after there are 2 red zone turnovers a la Chiefs Bills after the first 2 drives, but it'll be fun leading up to it. But yeah, I think that this total is still a little short. I'm going over. Collin?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, like you and I talked about on the podcast, but I'm going to focus specifically on the Oregon team total over 38.5, because this game lines up like a tennis serve bot Super Bowl between Dr. Evo and John Isner. The first team to get a defensive stop in this game is going to be the one that wins. So, when you have these 2 teams volleying each other back and forth with scores, I prefer to focus on one of those teams, and Oregon is the one that has just been flawless at home almost every single drive, ending in points with a heavy pull to touchdowns for Bo Nix. And listen, the Ducks are the top rushing team in the nation per success rate. The Ducks are the best pass blocking team in all of college football. And, Oregon is number 1 in standard down success rate. Say, well, what does that mean? That means that they never get to 3rd and long. They never get behind schedule. They are the number 1 team in the nation at achieving first downs without getting behind schedule. And that aspect has been critical for the UCLA defense. They're 94th in the same category on defense and standard down success rate, which means they allow a lot of first downs and teams to push it down the field. So I have supreme confidence in Bo Nix getting into scoring position and scoring points. And so for me, I'm saying Oregon team total over 38.5.
Yeah, plus you got home Bo Nix. Home Bo Nix at whenever he's at home is basically a Heisman quarterback. And I promise everyone this game will be much more exciting than a John Isner serve bot match against another big serve bot. Brett, where are you going here?
Sweet helmet there, Collin. Also, the Ducks wearing some sweet pink helmets today to raise awareness to cancer, solving cancer, obviously. Look, incredible matchup of quarterbacks, home Bo Nix and DTR. But I'm sometimes it's better to just be more simple. So I'm going to be simple on here. Oregon's the better team. They face the better schedule. This is only UCLA's 2nd road game of the season. Their first one was at Colorado. I don't even know if that counts. That's how bad Colorado is. Talked about Clemson's home winning streak. Guess what? Oregon's won 22 consecutive home games, 3rd longest streak in the nation. Give me Oregon -6.5 for all the reasons Collin said. I think they hold serve at least a couple of times and get a margin against the Bruins.
Colorado slander. The Buffaloes are on a 1-game home winning streak, by the way, in the league play. All right, good stuff there. Yeah, that game should be absolutely thrilling to watch. Can't wait for that one. All right, let's move on to our halftime break, and let's talk a little round robin underdog moneyline parlay. Collin, last week we hit 4 or 5, still a nice payday. The only one that didn't hit is your anchor of your BYU against your Hogs. Let's start off with a better anchor this week and try to hit all 5. What you got?
Well, no BYU this week in the Biblical Bowl down against Liberty. So let's start off our boat anchor with Air Force going up against Boise State. This is going to be a game that's going to be dictated by who has the better rush defense. That is Air Force and the defensive numbers all the way, despite Boise being a renewed offense with Taylor Green. Look for Air Force's defense to plug the A, B, and C gap, keep contained, and keep Boise limited. That'll be our boat anchor.
Yeah, fascinated in that game. Air Force is a lot healthier than they've been, so some of their numbers are a bit skewed due to injuries. Everyone on the show has been talking MAC all season. I haven't got enough MAC picks in my specialty, so let's go EMU.
Yeah,
that's it. It's just EMU. I think EMU is going to win the game. They're going to win the game.
Okay, well, Ohio is going to win the game too. Let's stay in the MAC. Ohio is going to win over Northern Illinois. They're 38th in defensive stuff rate. You have to have that against Rocky Lombardi, the zone read, the running backs, the Thomas Hammock running back head coach. You need to have a rush defense. Ohio's got it, and Curtis Rourke is 70% completion rate this year. Give me the Bobs.
Yeah, Colin waiting on me to give some mind-blowing analysis on EMU. It's my mind-blowing analysis is a dog in the MAC, so let's throw it in the round robin. Can't go wrong with that. Let's also throw in ECU here at home against UCF. I think it's time to sell UCF a little bit overvalued now after they put up 70 on Temple last week, much to my chagrin. But this is the first time they're leaving Florida. It's their second road game. I think their only other road game is FAU. This is a much tougher environment, bigger step up in class. And ECU's run defense, which is what you need against UCF, they're top 20 in every single stat across the board with that RPO offense. So is ECU's defense. Mike Houston finally has a run D down there. I think that they can contain this UCF offense. And if you do that, if you contain the run, they can't really throw it. Holt Nailers is balling out. Give me ECU at home.
Yeah, there's not a lot of big dogs on this slate. It is a perfect weekend for you to assess your win totals and see if you need to hedge out with all these small spreads. But one that is over a touchdown is Cal plus 7.5 at home. Let's go money line on them because Washington is lost on the road. And what's more lost than Washington on the road is their defense. Cal will be able to generate some points here. The Huskies have been one of the worst teams on the road this year. So let's go with Cal over a touchdown, but we'll take the money line to end our parlay here.
Yeah, I like that Cal bounce back spot. This Cal team under Wilcox always plays up and down to competition. He's one of the most profitable coaches in all of college football as an underdog and one of the least as a favorite. All right, good stuff there. Let's move on to the second half of our show for our final two marquee games. And let's go to the Big 12. This game is talked about a lot all week. Texas at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, I think, now came down a little bit, 5.5-point underdog. Total sitting at around 60, 61. This is, I think it's right around 61. This is all Texas for me. I'm going to wait to see if this line keeps coming down with the status of Spencer Sanders. Even if he does play, I think he will be limited. He won't be able to throw the ball down the field. There's also a wind factor here. And this Oklahoma State defense is going to get exposed by Texas. And when you look at the wind, who can run the ball and who can't? Texas can run it. Probably the best running back in the country. Oklahoma State can't. Oklahoma State's run defense has been a lot weaker than Texas. Just everything favors Texas here. I think Texas rolls. Hook 'em. Collin?
Yeah, the point spread is completely predicated on Spencer Sanders not playing because Texas minus 6.5 or 6 says that Gunnar Gundy is going to be a quarterback. But if Spencer Sanders plays, there's going to be some movement in the line. So my choice is to completely avoid all of that drama and all of that steam. And let's focus on a Texas team total over 33.5. I don't have to worry about Spencer Sanders getting a Toradol shot, being hot in the first half, not hot in the second half. I don't have to worry about any of that, except for the fact that Texas is the best at success rate and finishing drives and offense in the Big 12. And Oklahoma State has been a little bit of a fraud. The Cowboys defense this year is 90th in defensive finishing drives. Any team that gets past the 40-yard line is getting touchdowns. And this is just going to be a game where Bijan Robinson takes over from a ground perspective through the air. With Quinn Ewers, I expect a very strong showing from a points perspective, at least enough to get over this team total. And listen, the Texas offense is going to roll. And I have my Bijan Mustardson on my roll because it says it's like a touchdown in your mouth. So Texas team total over 33.5 today. And me and my mustard will be enjoying it the whole way.
All right. No comment there. Brett, where are you going?
Stuck, you're wearing an OU shirt. You're picking Texas. Jesus, get off the fence. All right. And I can tell you where
this is for you. I'm against you. I'm going to battle here. You're going to go Oak State, right? I assume.
Yeah. And I can tell you where to put your mustard, Collin. Look, Oklahoma State has more Texans. Not a lot of people know this on their roster than any non-Texas team in the country. To steal a phrase from Texas's future conference, it just means more for the Pokes when they play Texas. 24 players on their two deep offense and defense played high school ball in the state of Texas. You want more? I know you don't, but I'll still give you more. Gundy, 14-2 as an underdog, the best record of any active coach by a mile. Oh yeah, Oklahoma State covered last week at TCU. I talked about home winning streaks. Here's another one. Oklahoma State, 12-game home winning streak, longest in school history. Give me the Pokes plus 5.5. We will keep it close somehow, some way. And good teams win, great teams cover.
Homer, hook 'em. I'll be back. We'll battle on Twitter there. But excited for that game. It basically is an elimination game for the Big 12 championship, for all intents and purposes. So a lot at stake there, and we'll learn more about both teams. All right, let's move on to our final marquee game of the day, and we're going to stay in the Big 12. Kansas State at TCU. TCU here, 3.5-point favorite. I'm going Kansas State. Email, Wildcats. I think this is the spot to back them coming off of a bye. Meanwhile, TCU, look, they're coming off a brutal stretch. How much do they have left in the tank? I don't know, but they played their rival, SMU, and then 3 ranked teams. But if you dive a little deeper, who were the 3 ranked teams that they played? Right? Kansas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. What do all 3 have in common? Well, number 1, they're terrible defenses. Kansas State has a much better defense. And number 2, they all had quarterback injury issues. they either lost their starter or faced a team that their starter was hurt and was just ineffective in the second half. That won't be the case here. This is a big Deuce Vaughn game. I think the TCU defense is very flawed, and their numbers just aren't showing it. I think it's a back and forth game, but I'll gladly take the 3 and the hook in a great situational spot to boot. Collin, you agree?
I agree that Deuce Vaughn's going to play a major role, and this is going to be a slow grinding game. The total has been dropping all week on this for Kansas because Kansas State's plan of execution is to slow it down and to grind as much as possible. So I'm going to take the first half under 27 here and depend on Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn with that heavy ground attack. They're going to go more than their 64% rush rate on the season. One of the slower offenses in college football, about 29 seconds per play. And they're going to have plenty of success. TCU is 105th in defensive stuff rate. That means that they cannot meet runners at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield. And it's been a problem throughout their entire games. And you kind of have to look at what the Horned Frogs have done the last 2 weeks. And, you know, I lost my under thanks to overtime last week. I pushed on my under with Kansas a couple weeks ago. But when you look at what TCU did in the first half of those games, 13 points in the first half against Oklahoma State, 10 points in the first half against Kansas, TCU's just been asleep. Or defensive coordinators have kind of figured out how to stop this TCU attack just a little bit. And so I'm going to lean on that here. First half under 27 between Kansas State and TCU.
Yeah, wind could play a role here too, which obviously would help the under, and I think it helps Kansas State. Brett, you want to battle again here in the Big 12?
No, I'll throw you a bone here. We will agree on this one. I also like Kansas State too, with a heavy heart. I have to go against the Horned Frogs. I mean, they've been tremendous for us this year. Their offense has been incredible. Max Duggan, Sonny Dykes, but Kansas State is the nation's only team this year that has not thrown an interception. That's right. Adrian Martinez, who threw 30 interceptions in 4 years at Nebraska, has yet to throw an interception today. And also Kansas State has only lost 3 fumbles. They've taken care of the ball, kind of what Collin alluded to is lower scoring. I think Kansas State either gets the win or loses by field goal. And like you mentioned, Stuckey, this is a tough spot for TCU. They've got nothing left in the tank except maybe the diesel gas you put in your rent-a-car. I like Kansas State plus 3.5.
Thanks for bringing that up again. And thanks for jinxing the Adrian Martinez no interceptions.
Exactly. He'll throw 7 today.
We all have to go buy out of our Kansas State bets. All right, good stuff there. Let's take another break of the action and bring in the universally loved Darren Ravel for a quick market report. Good morning, Darren. How are you?
Hey, Stuck. Happy 6-year anniversary to what was one of the greatest games in college football history. Can you guess what I'm talking about? I'll give you a slow reveal. Okay.
What am I looking at?
Mahomes.
I can't even see.
It's
Texas Tech.
Texas
OU.
Tech, Oklahoma.
Baker, Texas. What was it? 66-59. What a slug out that was. All right. Let's get to the action at BetMGM. Most bet games by tickets. Ole Miss LSU 1, Texas Oklahoma State, and Kansas State TCU. Most bet teams by money. This is not a surprise. Ohio State minus 29.5. Ole Miss plus 1.5. The undefeated play, and UCLA plus 6.5. Then the most bet overs are UCLA, Oregon 70.5, Syracuse, Clemson 50, and Iowa, Ohio State 49.5. And the most bet unders are Ole Miss, LSU 64.5, Oklahoma State, Texas 60.5, and Alabama, Mississippi State 61. I asked a poll on Twitter. I said the total between Ohio State and Iowa is 49.5. What's your call? 62% said to the over. And reminder, Big Bets on Campus is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION50. Get an exclusive offer, $50 free. Sign up plus a $1,000 risk-free bet. Only available for Action users. Use the code ACTION50. And now my worst bet of the day, which is my best bet because I actually bet it, is...
Yeah, let me set this up. You're 0-7 over the last 3 shows. And hopefully we can continue fading Ravel successfully. And everyone is just you one of the shows you had 2 of my picks that I already gave out, and I knew that they were done. So now everyone is holding their breath, hoping that you don't give a pick that they already bet. So what do you got?
Iowa plus 18 first half.
Oh,
Let's go.
Wow.
Well, Vandy didn't work for you last week.
Oh,
in the
no,
first half.
it's going to take, all it takes is one stop and a field goal. I need one stop and a field goal. That's it.
Like I told you last week when you bet Vandy first half, it'll come down to the kickoff probably. Who wins the toss?
But that's not right.
Unfortunately for you, Georgia got the ball first, and they went down and scored a touchdown, and then they ended up scoring another touchdown.
But Vandy was on the Georgia 20, but it didn't work out, and then I know I still would have lost by.
Do you get paid for that? Vandy was at the 20 that they cover because they're at the 20. No,
I didn't. Nope.
All right.
Gets
All
a
right,
discount.
well, there you have it. Ohio State first half is the play. If you want to fade Ravel, if you want to ride them, go with Iowa first half. By the way, it's nice to hear Ohio State's name on the show. I promise, Ohio State fans, we're going to talk about you eventually. I think next week we'll probably have you as a marquee game. You just have been blowing everyone out with big spreads so far. All right, Darren, good stuff, and we'll see if you can end your 7-game losing streak.
You got it.
All right. Thanks as always to Darren. Let's move on to our final segment at the horn. We give one final best bet. I'm going to go with LSU -1 at home against Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a bit of a paper tiger. Haven't really played anybody. And I really liked what I saw last week from the LSU passing attack. Finally, I think they're a bit undervalued. We expected growing pains. They've also had a very tough schedule. For what it's worth, Brian Kelly is the most profitable coach over the past 20 years as either an underdog or favorite of a field goal or less. Go Tigers. Collin, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go Navy +3, and I'll keep this short. You couldn't find a bigger discrepancy in discipline among teams between the Naval Academy football team and Houston, led by Dana Holgorsen, and that is highlighted by where these teams rank in penalties. Navy is 3rd in the nation in penalties per game. Houston, dead last in FBS. And so that is what you just couldn't get two teams that have different philosophies together. And if you're going to defend Navy, you're going to have to be able to defend the triple option, the fullback, and Houston's stuff rate of 34th. They have a good defensive line and they're good in the pass rush, but that's not going to apply here against a team that never passes. So we're going to take Navy here +3, probably get some penalties, but Houston's just not going to be able to keep up here.
Can picture Holgorsen pulling his hair out, screaming on the sidelines already. Brett, where are you going?
Hold on real quick. I'm putting in the first half Ohio State.
Smart
play.
man.
Yeah, my second best bet. My first best bet, Boston College Wake under 60. Wake Forest has a dynamic offense with Sam Hartman. They'll probably be able to name the score. Dave Doran told me something earlier this year. It was at ACC Media Days. It was about playing Army. He said when they played Army last year, they suffered more injuries when they played Army than any other team that they faced. Well, obviously because of cut blocks with Army, they run the option, all those things. Well, Wake played Army 2 weeks ago. They were off last week. So I think they come into the Boston College game a little lethargic. I think they'll get a margin in the second half and they will shut it down because they've got a lot bigger ACC games down the stretch. So give me BC Wake under 60 and parlay it with Ohio State first half.
All right, good stuff there. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks as always to Collin and Brett and of course Darren. And thanks to our incredible video team on the back end. They do awesome work. And our sponsor BetMGM. Remember, Action 50 is the code when you sign up. $53 in risk-free bet up to $1,000. Make sure you check out Big Bets on Campus podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back with a recap on Monday morning. If you want to yell at us all weekend, call the podcast voicemail 959-BAD-BEAT. And one final reminder to make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. Good luck on all of your wagers today, and we'll catch you same time next week, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Cheers.